Hi guys, it's Fana and thank you so much for watching. So last April I made a April Showers witch named Rani, who you guys seem to really fall in love with, and honestly I fell in love with her too. She was by far the most intricate and in-depth doll that I had ever made, and I really wanted to do more dolls with that kind of attention to detail. So I decided that I wanted to do a collection of seasoned themed witches, which is a concept that I'm sure has been done a million times before. But I wanted to start with the winter witch because technically the year begins with the winter season. But this doll, she was supposed to be done in February, and by the time you're watching this video, it's gonna be May. So that didn't work out. But I asked you guys on Instagram if it would be okay to have a winter witch in May. And you guys were like, yeah, go ahead, it's fine. You're probably laughing at me behind my back. But the first thing that I did was make a Pinterest board with inspiration photos of what I thought my winter witch would be. And after collecting some different things, I decided to start sketching her. I really wanted to make her very short and very plus sized. Kind of my own body type, so I was the inspiration for this. But I had a lot of fun doodling her in a big poofy robe, and I was very excited about her. And then I decided that I wanted you guys to be more involved in the process. So I quickly sketched up what I was thinking, and I slapped on 3 different color palettes and had you guys vote on Instagram. So you all voted for, or the one that won was the 3rd illustration, if we can call it that. I used a Claudine Wolf Monster High doll. Now, Rani was a howling wolf doll, and I'm not sure if all of the witches will be from the wolf family. They're not going to be sisters, but I don't know, like the wolf family has a lot of variation in heights, which is very nice. So we'll see how summer and fall turn out. I removed the factory paint with 100% acetone nail polish remover, and I also took out all of the factory hair. Now you may notice this giant gouge in the back of her head. There was a neck peg situation that I had to correct, but that's okay. I also cut off her ears so that I could reposition them later. So for the very, very heavy body modifications, I ended up using a tutorial by starberry.kat on Instagram. She has it listed in her highlights how she likes to change the height and weight of her dolls, so I highly suggest that you go check that out. What ends up happening is I marked where I wanted to cut my doll, and then the Dremel came out. Yeah. As you can see, this is what she looks like next to her original form, a little bit shorter. After completely destroying her, I used some wire and hot glue to secure the pieces back together. And then I used air dry clay to start molding her body. I've never used air dried clay before. I usually purely use epoxy, but I needed several layers, so I decided to use this since it's a lot lighter than epoxy. Once I got the base forms how I wanted, I did go in with a layer of epoxy to get the shapes that I wanted. In the tutorial, starberry.kat whittles away down at the joints so that there's a lot more space, so that you're not getting the pillow effect, as it's called in the doll community. Whittling it away gives it more space for me to build up the limbs so that she is soft and plush looking without having stick-like joints. And I think I was able to accomplish that. Now, I know that these aren't how boobs work. I don't feel like making a push-up bra for this doll. And to be honest, I kind of regret modifying the body so much because you don't even see it at all. Something else that I do regret a little bit is that I modified her face to be rounder, and I was unable to get that seam perfectly. I couldn't get it any smoother, but I sanded the whole body and decided to paint it all white so that the colors were even. And then I used several layers of very watered down acrylic paint to make her skin a beautiful lush color. Don't worry about the holes left by the ears, those will be for her antlers later. But I decided to paint her scalp white because she is going to have a flocked buzz cut hairstyle. And for the first time, I also painted on some flyaway hairs, which I think turned out really cute. I decided to try out this Mod Podge Ultra Matte as a sealant, which made her very shiny, but after a couple sprays of Mr. Super Clear, she was matte once more. You guys know the drill with the face-ups. I use a lot of watercolor pencils and pastels and acrylic paints. And right now I'm just sketching in the first layer, getting to know the shapes, and slapping down some base colors. Her eyebrows are definitely the most unique part of her, and I definitely took inspiration from this picture. I wanted her to have like icicle-esque type eyebrows. They're definitely her statement piece for the face-up, but I really like them, and I like how they give her kind of a serious expression. I wanted this doll to be frosty, so I slapped on so much glitter. I have some micro pastels that I just went full force. This is what the first layer looks like. After the first layer, and after I use MSC to seal each layer, I go in and I darken up the colors and really build up so that she really pops. I decided to give her red pupils, which is kind of strange, but oh well. To add more to her frostiness, I decided to add little white dots all over her as the freckles of sorts, as if she was dusted with snow. This face-up is odd. It's very odd, but it's my favorite face-up that I've done in months. And hey, do what you want. I decided to use some acrylic paint to really go over the lines that just weren't showing up as well, and I think they really make her expression and her details very striking. I also used some acrylic paint to do the highlights in her eyes. I decided to whip out these glitters and glue them to her face because apparently she didn't have enough sparkle. So I just dabbed on little tiny bits of glue and put the sparkles on there. And so when I move her face, it really, it's so nice. And I also added them into the corners of her eyes instead of using gloss, which I instead put on her waterline, which I normally don't do. And I also glossed her lips. And with that, the face up is all done. Like I said before, she's my favorite face up in a very, very long time. She's kind of grumpy. Alright kids, strap in, because I'm trying to go into as much detail as possible with this outfit, because I'm very proud of it. So these are the final pattern pieces that I ended up making after only one prototype, which I am showing here in Muslim. This cloak is going to be fully lined. It's going to be fully lined because I'm crazy. But these are the two fabrics that I chose. I think they are very pretty and they're very sparkly. So in order for the cloak to be fully lined, I have to cut doubles of everything. Also, this pincushion was made by my friend Tasia Customs. As you can see here, I'm just kind of showing how it will open up and have bell sleeves. The only thing that I don't have to do the lining for is the capette part of the cloak. But as you can see here, everyone has their matches, and it was time for me to sew up the seams. I also folded over the edges of the little capette, and instead of hemming those, I decided to glue the seams down for that, because on this kind of scale, not everything needs to be sewn. As you can see here, I sewed the bottom and the side of the flaps of the dress and flipped them inside out. There are many different ways to line things. This is just the method that I chose. I also sewed the seams up until a little ridge point. Here I'm demonstrating, I'm just going to sew up that little part right there in order to do the bell shape before attaching them. So this is what it will look like. Just kind of super simple. I'll sew up those seams right there. And here is the little capette all done. It's a little stiff, but I also really like that. I love the shape of this. It's so cute it's just like swoop whoop at the bottom. I guess that's a bell bottom, I guess. But it's really coming together. I always sew on the sleeves at the very end instead of sewing them together with the base. And I also sewed on the collar capette thing and tacked that down a little bit more so that it would lay flat. But this is how it turned out. I love that I can kind of fold the sleeves back so you can see that lining. And at some point I painted her hands red for gloves. The next thing to do is to sew on the fur trim, which I did not use real fur. I instead found this really poofy yarn that worked absolutely perfectly, and it was more of a cream color, so it really fit in with the color palette that I was going for. So just hand sewed that onto both the hem of the cloak as well as the collar. And it's so poofy and great. You guys might notice that I am straying a little bit from my concept art, but it's the concept, not the final product. I also made this little tiny ribbon, which I sewed on only the one side of the collar so that it wasn't obstructing the clasp. Just adds a little detail and breaks up the colors. I also added 3 sets of hook and eyes from the top to about halfway down the cloak so that she could be locked and loaded in. I thought that the cloak was a little plain on the back, so I decided to cinch it. I put it on the doll so that I had proper fitting and so that it wouldn't be too tight. I just quickly sewed that up. And I also added another ribbon, this time with really long tassels. Once I was sure that it was secure, I shortened it a little bit and then also melted the ends of the ribbon with a lighter. Please be careful if you choose to do this. And then to add more detail, I have these little burgundy bells. They actually jingle, they're so cute. So I added that to the ribbon, and I think it's a nice little pop. I decided that the sleeves now looked kind of plain, so I added that fur trim to the sleeves as well. And it's so cute. It's so cute. It's almost done. I had these little tiny buttons, which I just glued on there. So let's talk about the shoes. I hate them, and they aren't meant to be seen. So yeah. I also made her a super simple slip underneath her cloak so that you couldn't see her bare legs. I really wish I had more of a cream knit, but this works really well. Okay, so these antlers were 3D printed and gifted to me by my friend Sugarlump Gift Shop. And I decided that I wanted to do icicles dangling from her antlers. Why does she have antlers? I think the backstory that I very loosely came up with was that it was a transformation spell gone wrong. Now, I know female deer don't have antlers like this. That's what I'm going for, that the transformation wasn't 100% complete. When the hot glue dries, it looks so cool. And I just trimmed up the stringy bits with a little pair of scissors and decided to take this glitter and some tacky glue and kind of slather the antlers. There's a rhyme and reason to how I'm slathering them. Just put glitter on top of that, and then the antlers look like they are dusted with snow. I love this, and I love how the glitter has the teal blue in it that matches the dress so perfectly, and I just secure that with 2-part epoxy glue so it's really strong. Next up is her buzz cut, which I made flocking out of that yarn from earlier. And once again, I am slathering on that tacky glue, and then I will be gently pressing down the flocking to her scalp. I clean up the edges with a toothpick so that you are still able to see some of the flyaways, but I do some patch cleaning here and there to make sure that you don't see any of her scalp through the flocking, and I think it complements her really well. So I got this Cockatoo Littlest Pet Shop in order to make a cardinal familiar for our winter witch. As you remember, Rani had the little frog Splish, and I decided to make a super grumpy cardinal. His name is Carlos, as of right now, Carlos the Cardinal. I don't know why, it's the first thing that popped into my head, and I can't believe I succeeded so well to make him look so sour and grumpy. He's so much fun. But he had some sculpting with epoxy, and then we are painting him red and black and orange. This is the base, and then I went in with some dry brushing to give him some texture. And he got some gloss, and Carlos is done. So the last thing that I was going to do is give our witch a icicle staff / wand. I took the inspiration from Jadis from the Chronicles of Narnia. So I put hot glue and some glitter to do some squiggly shapes, and these are my ice cubes. I took a skewer and cut it down to make a small little staff. Hot glued it together and rolled it in some glitter, and voila, we have a little staff, which you might remember was making a little getaway at the beginning. She's all done, guys! I am so incredibly happy with how this doll turned out, especially since I have been really struggling to like my customs for the past couple months. And I'm also really excited to be doing a series on this channel. I've already been planning the summer witch because obviously we don't need a spring witch because we have Rani from last year. I just really love all the detail that I was able to put into this doll. I really love that she is so drastically different looking than Rani, especially since Rani is made from a little sister body and the Winter Witch is made from a normal Monster High body and she's still so much shorter. But I don't really have a story for them. I'm excited to hear what you guys think below. Also, Carlos absolutely despises Splish, and Splish absolutely adores Carlos, so take that friendship into consideration. Name reveal. Her name is Zima, which is Russian for winter. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe. I hope you have a phenomenal day and keep being extraordinary. Bye!